when you walk with open arms towards the sun. You feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive, and you don't have to be afraid of anything, 'cause you know the truth, and the truth is love, yes it is. Wasn't what they said to you, or anything that you learned from a book or from the news. It's not like that, 'cause it's a thing. It is something that you do. Baby did long.
Welcome to the Bassline. Helena Krizek is a courageous mother who is fighting for justice on behalf of her deceased daughter. She is also a retired New York City nurse who was on the front lines during the peak of COVID. I am honored to be joined once again by my friend, the extraordinary Helena Krizek. How are you this morning, Helena?
I am doing fine. I am ready for it.
Very good. Well, I'm very excited that you're joining me again today. A lot of important things to talk about. So a few things, everyone. First of all, we are having another 528 frequency jam session. Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, that is January 25th at Rock Mill Fitness. That's 274 Lenox Avenue, just south of 124th Street. Very easy to get to. 3:30 p.m. are the doors, and then we start jamming shortly thereafter. So please save the date, invite some friends, help us spread the word. We're really trying to make this an enclave for people to experience a good old-fashioned, honest-to-goodness, good time, and we're doing so with the 528 frequency. So it's a special event because we're tuning our instruments to be in tune with the sun and the planet Earth, and we want you to come and soak up the vibe of all that rhythm and all that harmony and melody. But then also, you can support this program by subscribing to my Substack. Please go check out my latest article. It is 100 Questions for Pro-Vaxxers. I'm working on a couple of really good articles right now that I think you'll be pleased to read when they're completed. And we definitely need your support across the board here. We've had some really tremendous guests on this program. If you go back and scroll through the archives, we've had luminaries like Dr. Judy Mikovits. We've had Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. We've had Dr. Kat Lindley on twice. We've had Steve Kirsch. We've had Professor Mark Crispin Miller. We've had vaccine injury victims. We've had the vaccine bereaved. We've had all kinds of guests. Every one of my guests is a special guest by far, and there's so much information, and it's there to partake in, meaning listen to the episodes, download them, share them on different platforms. We really want to get the word out about this program because I feel that in the medical freedom struggle, I don't want to say that we're losing steam, but it's sort of like the second half of a basketball game where things get a little bit tougher because you're fatigued. You've already been working hard, but the hardest work is still ahead of us, and we need the medical freedom athletes to get their second wind. There's a lot of people who were more involved in the struggle before, and they started sort of fading away right when some of the progress was being made and some of the breakthroughs were occurring, and we need to get those folks back on the court and back into the game. Also, of course, you can support this program by going to jeremiahhosea.com, get the theme song of this show, Love's the Highest Truth, and check out all the other audio there. The first album I ever recorded is called No One's Slave. And if you go back and listen to that, you might understand where I'm coming from a little bit more in terms of why wouldn't this guy want to take experimental drugs as ordered by a tyrannical government? Well, because I'm the person who put an album together called No One's Slave. I don't really want to be a slave to the biosecurity state or the technocracy or any of that stuff. And of course, I'm a chess teacher, so please take me up on taking a chess lesson. I don't know how many students right now. I have about 10 consistent students on a weekly basis, separate from the classes that I teach. And I would really love to teach you. If you've played the game before, let's get a little bit more into depth. If you've never played before, I'll teach you from scratch. I will do so patiently. And I'll also provide you with resources. So it's not just a matter of what I teach you during the class. I'm going to provide you with a bunch of different resources and strategies as to how to continue to work on your game. And it's great for your health in terms of the mental fitness involved in chess. It's called the gymnasium of the mind. So I know there's a lot of health conscious PRN listeners. Please consider including chess in your health regimen, even if we just do half an hour a week. As little as half an hour a week, and you're just getting those neurotransmitters firing. But aside from the fact that I need more students, I am a father, married father of 2 young children. I also would really like to share my experience with this incredible audience. And also, I just want to put it out there for the PRN audience that PRN is a resource that we really can't take for granted. You know, a lot of things just get taken for granted in this world. And if you're a PRN listener, please take the time to promote the station. You can promote the station through promoting this program, and there are several other outstanding programs on this station. And just please spread the word as well as you can, because these institutions, we need to make them stronger. We don't need them to wither away. On the contrary, we want to expand the audience, expand the conversation. And with that, let's enter today's conversation with my friend Helena Krizek. Now, if you want to go back and listen to our first interview, that would be the Bassline episode 87. So please go back and listen to that interview, which I enjoyed listening to this morning. In context, although I can't say I exactly enjoyed it. I enjoyed that information is being shared, but it's not enjoyable at all to talk about what my friend Helena has been through. She's been through a living hell in terms of fighting for justice for her daughter, who was a victim of this military, medical, industrial complex that is completely raging out of control. And Helena, can you tell us, where do you stand with your legal actions? Give us an update as to what's transpired since we spoke to you previously, and what would be your next step in your ongoing campaign.
Where do I stand at current time? I am just going to brief on what has happened in the past.
Yes.
All this battle started in 2016 when my daughter died. Well, she didn't really die. I want to call it what it is. She was profiled. She was medically kidnapped. She was murdered. And her body was returned to me without the organs and eyes. Between 2016 and 2018, I have had the attorney in Hawaii, and we had to go to MICP hearing in 2017. But before MICP hearing in 2017, the attorney had sent me the request, the message, if I can send him my daughter's ID or a driver's license, or if she ever signed anything for organ harvesting. I have sent him her Hawaii ID. We never agreed to any organ harvesting. We are completely against those things. So in the fall of 2017, I went to Hawaii for hearing, MICP hearing, and so I have asked the attorney, why did you need that? And he told me, look, I have received some messages here from the attorneys in the community that a hospital is heavily involved in organ harvesting. I kind of knew that when I was going through the medical record, but I would not tell him because I was just looking for the medical problems, at the errors and different things. And so he was a little bit upset that I would not tell him that, because I thought if I tell him that I suspect organ harvesting, he will think maybe that I'm crazy. So that's what I did. So in 2018, about 6-7 weeks before statute of limitation was to expire, I was working with this attorney for about almost 2 years, and 6-7 weeks before statute of limitation was about to expire, one day he tells me, okay, we're going to file, everything is in the order. Next day he calls me and he said, I cannot do it.
Wow.
At that point, I knew he was threatened. So I have some friends who helped me to start the lawsuit by myself. I have started a lawsuit here in New York in Southern District Court, in federal court, and it was transferred to Hawaii on jurisdictional diversity. And then I was in that lawsuit by pro se until 2019, beginning of year 2019, when I went for my first hearing. And the judge suggested that I should get the attorneys because it's a complicated case. So I got the attorneys. The lawsuit was kind of on hold for 2 years because of the COVID. We went into trial in end of August, beginning of September of 22. And during the trial, I was left with 3 defendants out of 8. And one of the defendants was let go from the second day of the trial without, he was claiming medical issues, but I was requesting from my attorney the health certificate, because you cannot just leave the trial. You are a defendant, and you cannot just leave the trial without any proof, you know. So I was requesting the health certificate, and which I was never, I have never gotten from them. They would never demand it from the opposition, from the defense. The other option would be that they would ask to bring his medical provider for War Dyer into the court to testify that his client, his patient, has these medical issues, which has never happened. Or they could have requested from the court to get an independent evaluation. That has also never happened. So during the trial, I have lost this trial because this was my key witness during the trial, and they let him go. And I know if this key witness would be on the stand, he would break down, because he was a part of what has happened to my daughter. He was one of the major participants. After I have lost this lawsuit, I still stayed with my attorneys. I did not know that they sold me during the trial. Judge had the difficulty to handle my attorneys and the defense attorneys during the trial. We had them many times in the sidebar. He would even yell at the defense attorneys, you guys better wake up now, because this is going to affect Hawaii healthcare. After the trial, I did not know what has happened. I had never been in trial before, so I went along with my attorneys for a motion for a new trial. But the motion was denied by the same judge, and the judge was also let go from his position very shortly after the trial. He was the only Republican judge in Hawaii in federal court, and he was also the chief judge. Right after this trial, he was let go. They removed him to the position of regular judge. I don't know if this is just coincidental or what should I think about it, but it's questionable. And so I was in a motion for new trial, which he denied in December of 22. And in January 1st of 23, I have discharged my attorneys. I have let them go. Yeah. And I have filed myself with appellate court. I took it higher to appellate court. And it was over a year in appellate court, but obviously this was not the problem with the court. Problem was with the attorneys, my attorneys especially, who had sold me, and the defense attorney too. And in 23, I have filed another motion to unseal the documents. And when that motion was denied, but the judge has pointed out in that his order, in his decision, that this is not the court problems, but this call for the legal action against my attorneys. So in 24, in October 11, I have filed new lawsuit against my attorneys for legal malpractice.
Wow.
I am in the lawsuit by myself as a pro se. I have a backup of certain people who are assisting me with this, especially drafting my documents and instructing me on different things. I had to learn. I'm a nurse. I'm not the attorney. And so that's where I am standing now. I started with 13 defendants. Then 10 of them was let go on a legal procedural rules like statute of limitation and so on. One had never answered, which was Department of Health in Hawaii. Department of Health, I want to mention, they had staged the investigative survey into my daughter's death. And I am left with two defendants, who is my attorney and her law firm. Documents still are sealed, which are pertinent to one of my defendants from the first lawsuit. And at this point, I am going back to Hawaii next month for another hearing. And this is strictly against my attorneys who had sold me out during the trial. At this point, I am also going to provide RFK Jr. with the documents regarding my daughter's death, what has happened to her, because he had established the website and they are collecting all the reports on against the OPOs around the country. I have a 61-page document, and they are specifically talking about the KYDA, KYDA, which is the organ harvesting organization in Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. There is a lot of problems with OPOs around the country. Also, I wanted to mention that I have a book which is completed, but we are just looking for the publisher. And that's about it when it comes to the legal battle for now.
Well, that's quite a bit there. That's interesting and troubling turn of things that now you have to take your former attorneys to court. And it seems to me that the legal apparatus of this country is really letting the people down. I mean, I've never been someone who was a big fan of the law in thinking that it was being applied fairly. But as far as medical freedom and the broader question of confronting the medical industrial complex, we're getting so many bad judgments at every turn. I mean, there have been a few legal successes in COVID litigation. And of course, this isn't COVID litigation, but I'm bringing it all together in terms of legal actions against the military medical industrial complex. And it just seems that the court very heavily favors the bad guys, the tyranny, the corporations. They're just trampling over the regular people, and they don't even have any fear that there's a repercussion for that. It's just, well, you're just this little person, and we can just sort of crush you because we're siding with the big guys, the bullies, and that's the end of the story. And how do we change that is something I'm really thinking about a lot and concerned about. And I also want to thank you, Helena, for introducing me to Dr. Paul Byrne and this very important concept that people need to understand, which is that brain death is a myth, that brain death is the false moniker, the false concept that has been used to justify this American organ harvesting, which might be different than the Chinese version, but it's just as barbaric, and it's a huge problem that very few people are really aware of. So I thank you for introducing me to Dr. Byrne and introducing me to this horror that's going on, which is organ harvesting in the United States. And I think you're very correct to tie that in with the bigger problems that we've been made aware of through the COVID nightmare. The organ harvesting issue is really at the peak of the horrors that are happening in this system that we're struggling to change and that we're struggling to defend ourselves against. So I want to really thank you for bringing that big and very important topic to our discussion here on the Bassline. And I know that you're also a person who is very active in terms of reading and listening and collecting information on a daily basis. And it's kind of a broad question, but I would like to hear from you in terms of what are some of the things that stick out to you in terms of medical freedom these days? Are there any particular news items, or are there any particular areas of focus that have really caught your attention at this moment?
Yes, I just want to return back to organ harvesting, and I wanted to still mention that New Jersey is the only state which doesn't recognize diagnosis of brain death out of all 50 states.
Wow.
And this is also the state where Dr. Byrne was bringing his patients from other states. So how could we have one state out of 50 not recognizing brain death as an actual death, only cardiopulmonary death?
Wow, that's a very powerful fact.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a great example of a fact that's very, very significant that I'm sure very, very few people are aware of whatsoever. So
when it comes to medical freedom, I wanted to point out something from the news, what just recently has happened in Hawaii. The Hawaiian governor, current governor, Josh Green, he just signed into effect 90 proclamations, and he canceled 20 current state laws. And what is in those laws, actually, this proclamation, they want to vaccinate all the children now in Hawaii.
Whoa.
There will be no more any exemption, any religious or medical exemption. They want to vaccinate all the children. And there is also another thing, what has happened. The filmmaker Mickey Willis, he's the actually one who organized this. He's touring Hawaii with Dr. Cole, Dr. Malone, and Jimmy Dore, I believe. And there is also something very important which can affect all of us in other states. There was the Act number 236, which they can repossess temporarily your possession, I mean your land, your house, which can lead to permanent repossession of your property.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Mm-hmm. This is very, very important now. We have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's very important. And, you know, it reminds me of something that's been a recurring theme on Stop the Shots the past few nights, which is it just has occurred to me in a new kind of way as I've seen some of these statements from these corrupt politicians, that from the mayors to the Congress people to the senators to the people in the presidential administration, they are so incompetent in terms of achieving anything that would be beneficial to our communities, our cities, our states, but they're so well programmed when it comes to this bio-tyranny. Then they, all of a sudden, they know everything that they're supposed to say, and they keep pushing this agenda as though it's been successful. You know, the COVID thing was just this huge scam in terms of them constantly contradicting themselves, backpedaling, saying things that patently didn't make sense, and then they get an A on their report card and they get to just charge forward with their ridiculous agenda as though they've been successful in what they're doing, and completely ignoring all the carnage, all the very real ethical concerns, not to mention medical concerns about what they're doing. And I really would wish people could start tuning in to how serious this is, because as of now, we're a growing movement, I feel, but we really need to break out of this state of being a fringe movement. These aren't fringe issues. These are absolutely fundamental to our basic sense of freedom, human dignity, the idea of having any constitutional or human rights of any kind. And it sounds like Hawaii is being used as a testing ground for some of these draconian policies, similar to like what we saw in Canada, for example, where, you know, various places become a testing ground to see how much they can get away with and how well they can get people to comply with their agenda. Now, something that I would like to ask you about, Helena, is, you know, you've been a nurse for many years, now retired. And, you know, one thing that drives me crazy, speaking of corrupt politicians and our corrupt system, is, you know, we listen to these talking heads, and they act like experts about things where they generally have really no experience. And I often wonder, as a society, why don't we ask the teachers how to make the schools better? Why don't we ask the nurses how to make the medical system better? We don't even care about what the people who are doing these honorable jobs for our society, we don't care about what they think about what's happening in their profession and in their industries. And I would love to hear from you, just generally speaking, as an experienced nurse, what are some of the problems going on in our hospitals? And by that, never mind all the insurance stuff and all the bureaucracy and the paperwork, but in terms of the type of care or lack of care that people are receiving in hospitals, can you give us just a little inside scoop in terms of what's happening in the hospitals?
I think what I would change, I would bring back Hippocratic Oath. Because the general public has no clue. They think that medical providers are practicing under Hippocratic Oath. That's not true. The Hippocratic Oath was canceled in 1973 during Nixon administration. It was canceled by United States Supreme Court because if we would have Hippocratic Oath, they would not be able to be involved in stuff like abortion, harvesting, different psychiatric treatment, and so on. I would also bring back nurses as a hospital administrators because nurses, they don't really they don't look for profit. They look for proper care. I would also change the fact which has happened in 1973, again during Nixon administration, it's called HMO Act. When the hospitals before used to be like institutions of healing, but they had changed them into non-profit institutions, which is not true. They are all for profit. I would bring back homeopathic medicine because actually 85% of Western medicine, it's unscientific, dangerous, but very profitable. I would probably keep only maybe 15% of medicine we have today, and that would be trauma medicine. What we have to also do for medical students, their fee for medical school is so high. It's more than $500,000. By the time these kids finish the medical school and they get a job affiliation with certain hospital, they are practically sandwiched between the hospital and their loan, the massive loan. They can never repay. And so for them to keep the affiliation with the hospital, they literally have to do what they are being told. And that's why we have all this stuff what is happening today.
Right. Well, those are some great points you just highlighted there. And that's why I love to host this program. I feel like there's just so many insightful perspectives that we just don't get a chance to hear. And you just laid out a bunch of great things that I think we should all think about and things that should be implemented. I think you had a great list right there. And I also know that you're a person who declined flu shots when they were trying to impose influenza shots on nurses. And of course, you didn't take the toxic COVID injection, the products falsely marketed as vaccines, and you're hip to the vaccine scam, if you will. So could you just tell us your perspective on vaccines in general? Because, of course, we hear this nonsense that all the medical professionals agree vaccines are great. And no, there's a lot of people within the medical profession who are against vaccination. And this idea that everyone agrees is just totally false, which is also possible that everyone could be wrong. People should consider that. It's possible that the 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 person is actually right and everyone else is wrong. But in this case, it's a lot more than 1 in 1,000 or even 1 in 100. There are a lot of doctors and people with medical backgrounds who are saying we need to reconsider this entire practice of vaccination. So what would you say about vaccination as a practice in general at this point?
I haven't had a vaccine myself for over 30 years, almost 35. I don't believe in vaccination. I also don't agree with the additives in vaccines. And who was initially against the additives in vaccine was RFK. Because all the additives like aluminum, formaldehyde, mercury, even in the flu shots, it's dangerous to your body. So you actually injecting the poison into your body. And we have natural immunity. We need to support our natural immunity with a proper diet. We need to use maybe supplements like vitamins because our nutrition is very poor actually. We don't have enough supplements like vitamins and different things in our diet. So I also am supporting local farmers. I buy all my food from the local farmers. And previous year, in 24, I went to Indonesia where I did like a detox diet, which is called Instincto diet, which was established by a Frenchman named Claude Berger. And he used to treat people in France, like international people used to come to him for different treatments like cancer, Alzheimer, arthritis, whatever. And with this diet, which is practically a raw diet, you eat everything raw meat, raw fish, nothing is cooked, nothing is processed. And so I did the diet in Indonesia with this lady, and not only that I have lost weight, a kind of 25 pounds in 3 weeks, but also I have detoxed my body from all the chemicals. And when I went to Indonesia, I had lots of pain in my left arm for a few months, and I was already getting very discouraged because I was practically living on Advil, as I don't have a physician now for over 20 years. So I tried to do everything myself. But after this diet, when I came back, I haven't used any Advil for a year and a half now. I have no pain, completely went away. So everything is related to what is as an additive in our food.
Right. Some excellent points there. And actually, I want to, before I forget, I do believe that the problem with the phone lines is corrected. I heard there was some technical problems earlier, but let's give it a shot. If you guys could call in, we'd love to hear from you. The number, of course, is 888-874-4888. 888-874-4888. We'd love to hear from our phone callers here on the Progressive Radio Network. And yeah, we've had some problems with that, as you know, but hopefully they've been resolved. So give it a try if you could. We'd love to hear from you if you have a question for my guest, Helena Krizek, or something to add to our discussion. But I would like to shift to the idea of what things would look like if people suddenly started waking up a little bit. You know, I feel people are waking up, but I'd like people to wake up more. And I try to, at this point, emphasize, I don't want to say hope, because that word has been abused quite a bit, but I like to be positive in our orientation, right? We're not just here to lament about problems. We're trying to really engage in some problem solving and some proactive behavior that can improve this world that we live in. So if you could play utopian philosopher with me a little bit, Helena, what would you like to see in terms of what would it look like if people started waking up a little bit and getting more motivated around these issues and correcting these defects in our society?
I think what I would do, I would go back to the basics. I would go back to nutrition, absolutely no vaccines, because nutrition is very important, because we have very high obesity in this country, and which leads to chronic diseases. I agree with preventive care, but also in our preventive care, what we have, the stuff like mammograms, it starts right there when it's dangerous to the human body. Preventive care does not need such an aggressive test as mammograms and PSA for the man, because PSA can be elevated, after many different activities. And that confuses and scares lots of patients. When they get a result of elevated PSA, they start panicking. It should be just a general exam for preventive care, and that should be it. We should also introduce the physical education in schools for children, because we have lots of children we see these days, they are heavily overweight. We should avoid processed food, definitely avoid processed food. And, we should stop treating the physicians as a god, because they are not the gods. They are equivalent of the vendors.
Right. Yeah, again, great series of points there. And we are lucky to have a phone call from Connecticut, actually. I would like to invite Neil to join the conversation. How are you this afternoon, Neil?
I'm hanging in there, just like a lot of us. How are you all doing?
Pretty well under the circumstances. Thank you.
Happy to hear that. I want to draw some couple of correlations to the organ harvesting.
Yeah.
The first one that occurred to me, and I want to see what your guest feels about this. Perhaps the sixth leading cause of death in Canada. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you perfectly. Go ahead.
All right. One of the leading causes of death in Canada is the MAIDS program. A lot of your listeners are probably already familiar with this medically assisted suicide.
Yeah, recently introduced in New York State, actually, but go ahead.
That is correct. And I think a host of other states now. So the location, the site for this organ harvesting is usually in a hospital. We can presume this. But even if the assisted suicide occurs in a doctor's office, it's an easy matter just to have an ambulance shuttle the body to the hospital. So my feeling is that just observing the circumstantial evidence, I believe there's a correlation between the organ harvesting and the assisted suicide. The other element, I believe, is that it's my opinion that iatrogenesis, death by medicine, is much more often on purpose than by accident. So I just want to see what your guest feels about the correlations I'm trying to draw between the organ harvesting. I mean, it's a circumstance of opportunity, and we're dealing with opportunists, to say the least.
Yeah, excellent point.
With the phenomenon as it occurs in China, and it's been going on here a long, long time. So I would advise anyone to tell their children, do not sign up for the organ donation. Do not be an organ donor. And we're finding circumstances, I think, more and more now, where they're overriding that anyway, where they're disregarding the rejection of organ donorship. And they're just going ahead and doing it anyway.
Yeah, thank you so much for an excellent call, Neil. You made some outstanding points there. Helena, what do you say about that? I think he makes some really good points.
I want to say, when the gentleman was saying that if they do mate in a clinic or doctor's office, the patient has to be actually alive when they harvest the organs. They cannot be dead. They have to be alive because they are placed on the ventilator, and we cannot place the dead man on the ventilator. There is a paralytic agent used, and we would not need paralyzed person who went through cardiopulmonary death. So these people are still alive. They are being paralyzed, so they cannot speak, they cannot move, and they know what is happening to them, actually, that there is a 2 feet long incision in their thoracic and abdominal cavity being made, and their organs are being fished. And the organs have to be taken from the person who is alive because they have to be viable, because if the patient goes through post-cardiopulmonary death, which is the only death, for 5 minutes, there is an immediate decomposition of the organs. They are not, they cannot be used for transplantation.
Good points.
So they must have transported these patients from the clinic when they are still alive to a certain extent.
I wonder if that's being done, Helena. Is it possible that they're getting people to sign up for organ donation and then we'll kill you?
I believe what is happening, that many patients are being snatched. Yes, I believe that. Especially after when I have seen my daughter's medical record.
Yeah, which I think is another great point that Neil made in terms of intentional iatrogenesis, that oops, we killed you, but at least we got to use your organs for something beneficial. And
also lots of people, when there was all these overdoses of opioids, they've been utilizing all these patients who ended up with overdose in the emergency room. They were utilizing them for organ harvesting.
Right. Yeah, so what a horrifying situation that we have on our hands with this organ harvesting and this collateral damage approach to so-called health care, which is lacking in health and also lacking in care. And I mean, what we do to confront all of this, it's not an easy task, but there are many fronts on which we can fight. And we need all hands on deck. We need people sharing information. We need people organizing rallies. We need people writing articles. We need people giving firsthand testimonies of their experiences. We need people really going to bat for some of the spokespeople and some of the people on the right side of history who are at the forefront of this, whether it's on the medical side, on the legal side. We really need to address this issue right now, because a lot is happening right now, and if we miss this historical moment, we'll miss the moment, and there's no undoing this time period right now if we don't start getting into the struggle here. And I would like to know from you, Helena, what are you we of course talked about your legal efforts, but what are you doing on a daily basis, in a sense, to take care of yourself? I mean, we talked about food, we talked about legal struggle, but in terms of your orientation, how do you go about participating in this awakening on a daily basis? Because I know you share a lot of information, you take in a lot of information. Give us a little insight into your sort of everyday process.
I'll be honest with you. What is very difficult for me, it's the morning. The first thing when I wake up, it's very difficult because I'm thinking, as a nurse, I know step by step what was done from that medical record, what was done to my daughter. Yeah. Those first few minutes, it's very difficult, right? Yeah. But then I have to do something physical. Let's call it washing the walls or whatever. I'm just making that up. Something physical so I can deal with it mentally. Yeah. Because it's very, very difficult. Especially when if I would not know, if I was to be in different profession before and let's say be a salesperson or something, and I would have no clue, then I would believe them and everything would be okay. But if step by step, it's very difficult.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And my heart goes out to you. I really want people to feel the pain of Helena and the parents who have suffered in this manner. And we have to realize that this could just as easily be our own families if circumstances turn for the worst. And we don't want to be treated in this manner. We don't want our children to be treated in this manner. So therefore, we should really do our best to make sure that no one's child is sacrificed in this way. And I think I just saw yesterday in a school where I was teaching Martin Luther King Jr. quote on the wall: "An injustice in one place is a threat to justice everywhere." And I really believe that, and we should stick up for each other, and we should speak out about these things. We have to stop being bashful, if you will, because too much is at stake. So it's not a matter of jumping on the table and making a spectacle of oneself. We have to be well comported as we bring these issues into various environments, whether it's talking to other parents, talking to neighbors, talk to your family members. If everybody in your family is not on the right side of history just yet, there might be a family member or two that might be a little bit more receptive. Or you might even have a family member who's very much in agreement with you about these matters, and you just haven't broached the subject yet. So I encourage people to engage with parents and community members and to just pull more people into the conversation. I was actually walking down the street talking to a family member of mine about the recent studies that have come out, 12 vaxxed versus unvaxxed studies that showed across the board 22 different categories of health that the unvaccinated were doing better than the vaccinated. And a lady overheard me talking on the phone as I was shuffling to the train station, and she said, "What was the name of that documentary that you just said?" She stopped me in the streets, and I said, it's called An Inconvenient Study. And she, I said, "Here, just send me your phone number and I'll text you the information." And she said that her, I think it's 4-year-old, is being held out of school because they're demanding that the child receives these vaccinations, and she doesn't want to. And I said, whatever you have to do not let them inject your baby with poison. Don't let them do it.
Yes.
Move to another state, homeschool, get documents, quote unquote, whatever you have to do, but do not succumb to these tyrants, because the price is just too great. Do you find, Helena, do you have people to speak with? I mean, of course, other than me, I'm your friend, and Michael J. So and some other of our common friends.
With whom I can speak about it, and they understand. At the beginning, 10 years ago when this happened, I was still working as a nurse until mid of 2020. Even some of my coworkers, they would not believe it. They have difficulty to understand this.
Absolutely.
And that's why when I look sometimes on YouTube, there is lots of programs, and they call them Walk of Honor, when they are wheeling actually that patient from the ICU on the ventilator into operating room for the harvesting procedure.
Right.
This is not the Walk of Honor. And I have just seen recently Dr. Andrew Kaufman, one of his short video, and he describes this procedure as a sacrificial procedure. It's a sacrifice.
Yeah. That was the term.
We were not doing organ transplantation before 1968. And when everything started in South Africa and then here in Howard University, it was done, it's strictly for profit. Because people don't need really organ harvesting. We don't need these organs if you take care of properly of your body.
Yeah. We have Ronald on the line. How are you, Ronald?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I thought it was that Ronald. It's my good friend Ronald F. Owens Jr., the Road Warrior. How are you, brother?
Good. I'm doing well. I don't really have anything profound to say, just to offer my sincere condolences to Helena. Am I pronouncing her name correctly? Or
yes, sir.
Helena?
Helena, yes, you got it.
Okay. I just wanted to offer my sincere condolences to what you're going through. And I commend you that you're turning this around positive, and you're raising awareness. You're appearing on second time on the Bassline, and you're doing other stuff to let people know what's going on. So I just wanted to share that with you and encourage you, and may the God of comfort continually comfort you and yours.
Yeah, thank you for those words, Ronald.
Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate you, Ronald. Ronald has been a guest on this program, and he's the running mate alongside of Julie Threet. I call them the dynamic duo of medical freedom, the road warriors of medical freedom. Please check out my interview with Julie Threet, my interview with Ronald F. Owens Jr., and then my interview with Ronald and Julie together. And please help spread the word by all means in terms of the work that they're doing. They're going county by county by county to every board of supervisors meeting in the state of California, notifying people of the dangers and the horrors of the COVID injections. And I think you made a great point, Ronald, in terms of Helena is really showing incredible character and strength to take such a gruesome tragedy, such a horrific nightmare of an experience, and to turn that around and to fight for justice. That's really beyond admirable, and that's the type of spirit that we really need to support. So I really thank you for making that observation about Helena. Yeah. So we're almost out of time here. We have about a minute to go, but I want to thank you, Helena, for joining me again. You shared a lot of great ideas and information and insight with us today. And I want to ask everyone, please download this program, keep it on file, share it with people so they can start coming to grips with these difficult discussions. We're going to be on Stop the Shots tonight again, 9 p.m. Please look me up at Earth Driver on X. If you don't have an X account, I understand if you don't want to be on social media, but I highly recommend you start an X account just to be able to communicate with so many other folks that are involved in the struggle and to help gather information. You can really curate your own X account in a way that can really be productive. So want to thank you all for listening. Please.
I just wanted to say something.
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say before we complete this interview, I know I'm fully aware that during my lifetime, I probably might just educate few people. I might maybe not accomplish what I want to accomplish, but my final goal would be to get more parents to join me and file the lawsuit against our government, because when this was put in the law by our federal government, we need to cancel that law.
Absolutely.
Because it's done under umbrella of fraudulent diagnosis of brain death, which doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point and a great call to action to end our program today. So thanks again, Helena. Thanks to the callers. Thanks, Neil and Ronald. And thanks to everyone listening. Please share a link to this interview. Please subscribe to the Bassline on YouTube. We are now on YouTube. And please join us tonight on Stop the Shots, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the Stop the Shots community on X. Everyone have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll talk to you next week. Peace and love.